we are busy throughout the conversation, Benya or Professor Vincent Asafo from University of Cape Coast. This topical issues and they originally Ghana. So who then is telling us the true state of the nation? Is it the NDC? Is it the President of the Republic? Or the former administration currently addressing the media by the former finance minister? What is the true state of your nation? Question that me be saying, I want to say, what is the true state of your nation? I've been busy to come and assume I'm faster than for my production team, headed by Mr. Bernard Ogo Osman, FKK, the Maso Blackus, we train out to our Facebook. And to call live our Facebook, Kastle 90.3 FM, YouTube, Kastle 90.3 FM, and all the various social media handles in here, we are streaming live. Platform I did you text message or WhatsApp message, you see, very active this very afternoon. 0244-743-143 0244-743-143. Now is in common. The big question is, what is your true state of the nation? Wankasa, what is your true state of your nation? www.kastleFMonline.com. We are also streaming live there. We are bringing the camera Ishman. Joe and Pra at Nasi. The Betty Osman Linka. Ebet Oxman in Kadamasun, the political actors also join. Na Inano Yezi in common. The issues another event Arawa Kodinano Yamo the feedback another live feed of the event Arawa Kodo. It started from the Economic Dialogue Forum and the what shall say Greater Accra region. Accra International Conference Center, His Excellency, and also the current finance minister, Unyinano Wakase. And it all boils down to the state of Ghana's economy in 2025. It all boils down to the state of our current economy in Ghana. But an opinion may be a question. What should be the path forward? What should be the path forward? Our economy, and then this is the Atoha, MPP the Atoha, Irinya Economic Forum. Yenya about it be 10 years ago, I was saying, what happened? 2025, we are having economic forum. Will it hold waters? No see much ado about nothing. But the president Aka, on your just paperwork, on your just talk, it will be put into action. What are some of the results are you hoping to see after this economic dialogue or Accra International Conference Center? But you know, what is the true state of your nation? Yoel, Akwaba, Bibi Aboko, I'm good. And then Kofi Ade would die Jamewa. Empty and full. I dare what I am in there. The master me a cafabe and come now. Fitty, Ahumachi, Mudrana, 1 Mudru gate, me first security for me line look me a call on call. Obiaso from Omba.
No, I think that largely no these service providers in terms of communication and network, they are taking advantage of us as Ghanaians. But boy, young there, young come off on you,
you need come off with I then I be using one.
Sebu more PBR or 2 in Chekrobida, A few people are ones we face the same challenges.
You see one.
Yes, and we put together a class action against them.
Yes.
Because you never know within that period, and maybe I'll throw abroad some big business. You know, another what you have lost during that period. So I think that this should be a clarion call to all of them.
Now, if you're there, 3 something, a meeting gate na me free security uncle na obi ba attack man.
Yeah. What if that had happened? So I think that the powers that be, they should begin to look at some of these things. A corner yes buffalo.
And after what restore one for any apology
but it comes back to the question, who do we go to complain to, and where do we get respite from? Sanka, there are some mechanisms definitely you have lost something.
Yeah.
From within this period up to that period 3 a.m.
up to 11 something.
You have lost something. So you must be compensated for it. But where do we go to? It is obedience, if whilst we are not the repository of all knowledge, he also knows how we can also go about this. I think they should all help. Now we should help in the effectiveness and efficiencies of the services was man, because really it's a big challenge. A lot of people are going through. And I pray that with the new Minister for Communication, Honorable Sam George.
I don't see a register for phone.
But by all means and instances, a good thing.
Yeah.
So MTN, they are the market leaders in that space.
Yeah, but I say, Alaji.
Amina.
I said I'll be quick kind of TV. I say light in the room. What do you that? We could come local.
So no.
I be able.
Oh, young couple nado. You guys find a worse way.
Oh, Christ nado, maybe able.
You guys find it.
Yeah.
Baby in sway.
Oh, live and kicking.
As a man putting busy moon to be on from. And I'm a fellow.
You say uncle ye.
Sankamu office
obion with the true nature of you.
But the true nature of me.
If you say uncle you.
Nasa obi arenye. And you know the question behind to me visa.
Yeah.
Chila mama mpoda maka. So mukada maka.
Oh, free to ask.
I am to me shanko for kama na de bibi o say But I went pekaso. I must mood the mood in my spirit in the bar. I don't care. Makada makamari and makamari. I had a moon here. It's no mood in them being your brewery. My show office and I'm able to channel. On pound.
Because I'm honorable baby obey you, Obisa.
Oh no, I can go. Oh no, your boss. I'm in your boss.
I don't me share or bear brain, you are boy. Honorable Francis A.J. Good uncle, good afternoon.
Easy.
Yeah. But Alaji, Fritty, last week President Omar, the State of the Nation, Bessie Oye Anope Bessie Eriabri. There have been series of events. But in your January or thoughts on the series of events are waba.
Kwame na mamenda wa saying every na yam fan chain be from my unity for your national phone because we are streaming live on Facebook. So now I share another retail program about my Facebook and so now I could enjoy the show no until I search box no. But Kastle 90.3 Cape Coast na for shame like you page no na share. Number one so baby no so nya bin share. Na ya mo show no tum na onko na nyimo ho no. Said I'm catch the competition album. Because of young way need to know. Obisu kuta the same way na say your hashtag.
Yeah. Hashtag Kastle 90.3 FM.
Yeah na
yeah mo be a mileage. But Kastle 90.3 FM.
The man naughty. Yes. Kwame na me feel there it's been good. Because I make a say if yes you ever practice democracy, this is one of the ways our constitution one mandate president today. At any point in time if you are another at every point in time if you are now constitution is stipulate or chedo tum na oko parliament because parliament needs to the Ghana funny na yewo because ehona yen representatives so yen to abi you want no when you now want to through them no. Then also was a communication and other was information in your constituency into a parliament na oko cha o man na wa ba inheriting home for yin enti virtually the State of the Nation's address, you know, it was water, was it bequeathing, was it gen, and the national vision, and also expect today, or what shows it by you, Jumano, and now, or Ben now, which one for you know, as a train. And for me, and a pen America war, Kawadrin day. In as much as I'm about president now, but especially on the thematic areas, I may, you know, it is good because issues about corruption and governance, agriculture and agribusiness, education, the economy itself, yaza nano so odzun command kasa. But America there, in as much as any political animals. Yes, NDC one proper credit NPP for BBI, NPP so same one proper credit, you know. The jobs and those things, you know, will definitely come in. But now can expect today. At least in Konya Sheze, under His Excellency Nana Danke Kufuado, me to maintain he didn't achieve anything. There wasn't any success. One chalk or Nabenu. In fact, he also did his best. If you baby could baby, but it has been our attitude. Yenusuban. Me who are bunny be a waba in the Fourth Republic. Or Boba Kada, ni predecessor. Or be you must say into most of about you. Professor Mosika, yeah, maybe. But then for most of them, Obia, but they create a gloomy picture about the economy. Na nyama nkoye, nyama tedemi, nyama tedemi, nyama tedemi. I feel once what she send for free bill. And it's more or less like your market time. Ye jina fa akwer. If we acknowledge there, obi be no be do baby. There were challenges. Nti e pede ye hu fima. It means we understand our problem. Then we move on from there. But once ya bana say ba kan bibia go bi o there, as if the hwe nsi. Nti anopena me be a question there. Agenda 111 for instance. Kwamina, you know my stand on this project. If I dey me kind there, be be kada yamba aba na about but for me kada Aban did not have that vision there. Obey the mass because no one share manifesto. And indeed, best of our nyama ye wo kroma dey bia no yon share manifesto. Onya COVID no obey ya. And kayanda andwene there were certain 88 districts or Ghana had there one hospitals. Into COVID they be show us that my precarious situation no. Then we had to find ways and means you ever solve that my problem no. Into a case me about dedicated funding, which I agreed with him. Because your vision be that this is what we want to do. In content time, you start from baby, now but in this case, you know, there was nothing like that. It's the word and the years when the operationalization, no, at least what's where we are 3. What they are supposed to put in equipment. And now one of our equipment, human resources, you know. But then when I'll go back again and ask ourselves question there, you get 2015-2016, you start e-blocks 200. No matter you complete it was because now you said that you planning there. This is what we are going to do. It's a challenge when it comes to our leadership in this country. You about to buy one now. You want to pray. You show signs that we want to do something, but in Kayats now you are planning there. This is the inherent problem, sir. Sector be orukum. So these are the plans that you go by A, B, C, D. You work towards them, but you don't them. So for me, this is one of those structural challenges in our economy.
Okay, I like you. Men Romana, nyabutete break. You become specific. Now is in common, especially the National Economic Forum and the Wakaho Assam or a 2-day program warrior and see you become na you attack the economy and Kasa Elho. But Mr. Moa, we've had an eventful weekend near the room another week.
Right.
But me general view on those events I was basically this afternoon it be recorded with MPP having the true state of the nation press conference.
Right, come let me dasi minchia wa na minchia brother Osman na minchia ahwefu no nyi etiefu nyina. I think that first and foremost, you know, or there isn't that Simon Yakupon will be on you know, come now still in Susam is still a problem. It means him,
okay,
you know, because
okay, yeah, area the or picking
yeah,
for throughout last week in Sarana,
yeah, but it's still a problem, you know, so one of the powers that be, you know, we are grateful that CCR is not as bad as before, you know, but we can always do better. into your best there. Whatever it is they are doing as this year, almost flow a little bit better. No, they should keep at it now. Into me more of the water because it's very very important. And talking about Moses here, man, you see, the painful case and was a year sonny and Tassam for fra. Na what we are seeing, Abani. So Ghana's here, then at every point in time there's a new news. But what is also true is that news be over baby the longest lifespan is 2 weeks. No way. Today, last week, His Excellency made the State of the Nation address. On we take over all the conversations I have having. This is the second week. Yeah. By this week ending, and then enter next week when the conversation of State of the Nation address. Yeah. But I'm very happy about a few things. Maybe what I say is that principle and consistency are two are very very important to me. Because what is a human being without a principle? And two, if you are not consistent in then you are flip-flopping all the time. Into Minjunzi. Into my mumbo His Excellency John Dramani Mahama Nabado. Now, I have seen that now he's showing consistency on Sema Okenu. And I'll take you to Abra was sworn in, on the 7th of January 2025. I mentioned there, the focus as a government is going to be on 1, economic restoration and stabilization of macroeconomy. 2, improvement of business investment and environment. But let me stay on these 2, but there are 2 more. Now, if I look at these 2, now you trim there. Also, no focus no boy corner or bosha Obama Yansika some wage yibia. And again, so bosha corner be expand the economy in my businesses so once wide and one one. And again, some new ban State of the Nation addresser or deliver any man. He asks the question, what are the takeaways for me for the people of Ghana? He talks about 1, fighting corruption effectively. 2, running a lean government of not more than 60 minutes. That is about economic restoration because we are saving money. So he's been consistent. Again, he talks about the introducing austerity, reducing wasteful expenditure and spending, and improving tax collection. So that is also about economic restoration and stabilization of the macroeconomy. So I've seen consistency in His Excellency Nkrumah Ozin, and I'm happy about that. Again, I'm on the finance ministry, and I'm doing this because, yesterday, currently, T-bills, treasury bills, and while we are growing up in that it is the safest investment you can make, But not too long ago, national T-bill rates they were very, very high. So he was encouraging people there, young friends can go to bank name to T-bill so that our money is safe. But you see, since you are new there, T-bill rating all before, what that does for every economy is that say T-bill rate all before, then it doesn't become as attractive to businessmen again because for say so instead of to T-bill, why don't I use that to set up a business or expand my business? So the reduction in T-bill rate, it is helping, or it will help for businessmen to expand their businesses, to expand the economy, thereby creating more room for employment and all of that.
So that was the basis of Finance Minister. Okay, it has saved this nation. Some amount of money. I've forgotten the amount though, but then also it has saved about. Osman, if they put my bomb on the amount of money a Finance Minister, also the TB, why? So that was the basis. I know the kind of.
Yeah. So, and I think it's one of the measures you can use in finance to engineer the improvement of the business environment, So I'm happy, Mumbo Wanabado. So on these 2 bases, Zimbabwe Wanabado, Bakamla, you see, I sat here and said, Tefu Bekewaso, some few weeks back, we were talking about what is, there was a release on the National Economic Dialogue, The National Economic Dialogue, I said, okay, for me personally, I do not support Ghana having a national economic dialogue. You know, and I made a point that constitutionally, Ghana Amambra Yezubuman or there's a certain body called the National Development Planning Commissioner. On the Nejima, where you are in there every day, every week, every month, you are in there. Uncle Tomantos for, Uncle Annual for, what on toffee. Here you more Benejumum. On Sanson call Amanazi. Now on share the current state of Ghana for. Now Oko Amanazi so on share the state of a manner who are in Yunzigua. Now on for two umbum. Now on your forecasting into the future, giving the trend or cordon. Now you put into a document or guide Ghana there. Say ye pede ye developer them a koni na yemfado. So if we get a national economic dialogue, I felt that it was a duplicity of roles and responsibilities. So for me, I do not support the national economic dialogue, you know, and I think I'm entitled to that. But the beautiful thing is that His Excellency the President John Dramani Mahama, Ghana far to Abaman, woman a certain mandate. Ono no nyini painful pre there see a national economic dialogue or Bob one, you know. So they also have the right to also chart that part and go on it. I come now everything that is happening, you see, yaka economy no baby. But you know that from last week or so, security has also become a problem. Because yet see the echo introduced we are KNUS there. A certain young lady has been murdered by her boyfriend, you know. And for me, if you've spoken with some of KNUS students, they talk about the state of security on their campuses. And it's not only on KNUS campus. I call Legon and UPS, it is there. Eba University of Cape Coast, it is there, you know. So it is about time. If it is more security persons in here, I may employ more. If it is security architecture in terms of technology, maybe use there, let lighten up the whole area, because still on campus there certain areas they are very dark. The masune say you be invest in a CCTV cameras here, because we are told that so a CCTV camera or pick up the whole incident. Into one who there boy in Ponoiden or again. It say if it is more CCTV cameras near Boko, the various universities in Sa, call so that they can reduce the level of insecurity. No, basa or kodo or no. So I think that is also an important matter. Say if in Bilboma, you know, production can work on it, so that we have a conversation about that too. So the economy is talking about security. Then there are other matters so they are happening on the sidelines. Before you know it, you know, what happened to that dog, Ghana, for our minds will not be averted to those things. For instance, the type of appointment and the number of appointment or bar. You know.
So time Elika or the number of ministers come back. We need to also look at the certain appointment to be or
yes.
I mean also we have conversation on some of the appointments. I see them as unnecessary portfolios or offices being established for these NDC purchase to occupy financial burden.
Right. And I agree with you.
But Joel, about you though, my many prof in Kezi in Common Brand.
Okay.
Professor Vincent, a sample from our University of Cape Coast. Na menje ne views the economic dialogue and the Okrodo Accra International Conference Center. Prof, good afternoon. Hello, Prof.
Yeah, hello.
Good afternoon, Prof.
Good afternoon.
But you are bringing the BBI boko.
Yankopanadom yehuye.
Ya dem ya se. Meji the BBI one should be what did he?
Exactly.
All right. I believe there with the conversation or currently or economic dialogue. His Excellency Kawasam, I mean in the manifesto Oba Abenumunso in the 120-day social contract with Ghanaians and Anunsu Finally, and at the Accra International Conference Center. The event will take off. Your general view on the event?
Yeah, me that's it. Make cheer one a tape for you now. I'm the as you rightly said in your intro, no. I'm paying all Bona process the Ghana phone to Abamano, no. Share borders, Nyakuboy, and Domina Ghana for the 2 missions, no. And that, or how many do you know, I believe 120 days or one other enemy, no, or in between the period, you know. Over here, Ghana for one in zero, Sikasem, to train home, na then Obeshia, na, ya try to again. Me when I'm Pagana in Sikasem, Mitsi to then, Abadina Yebeya, Obama, Yehu, Aha, Hanya was in Sikasem no more. Ghana for yeah, na dum the 2 missions same na Opao Abejukwa. Yen Papa, Dr. Ishmael Yamson, other one I know, in Yanum today, Professor Gachi or UCC Dean of Business School. On others were well experienced with matters of finance and economics and other social issues. What I say, what she said, the new Jumedi, in the China, Abemfo Kukudam, Wabeb Jinjino home, Ubediwa Bobo, and I believe that after Chinano, what the one simple Robert Tugua, Obetro Mampanian, Ajunpa, Winyano, and Yama or the years, or Mamba Papa Boama Insikasem with Jinanando.
Okay. But the question a man from Wobisa and Ghana from Wobisa, that this forum or dialogue, is it a panacea or is it a solution to our current economic condition?
Well, it could be yes or it could be no. It could be no in the sense that we ever get a Ghana yen how that yon how no offer no how or man paying another on also there said the Nyansan continue one trim into no own tema though on no be at the end of the day no now or the Yanko question monk amunim or basically the ampa is yes in the sense that Nyansan in impact trim yan nanam kade so kunkwejina into Nyansan in impact routine saying na ye kan na dwen bom na ye dwenjen ne ho na ye tu anamona oye mahen na oboboa ma oman no we si ye enti no in my own opinion as a Ghanaian me feel there oya dwumedia oboboa ma adwena ye betumi yenya na ye de be ye dwuma oboboa hen nyina no me feel there say or Mampain Kadea, Ghana Funi Nambra and mind you, as a committee in Power Mampain Power. As and then or Chinejumade will be the 1 hour will be the name, and 1 hour Becassa. A 2 day or a truly a national economic dialogue. On yesterday, NDC for the winner 1 2 minutes. 1 uncle Tinwaka Kotina baby na wood 1 come. Or your man Ghana na yedi yahun komo and there's a pain for a woody in Comodine on yesterday NDC party from Quatin a bubo one dinner even Honema ye names or NDC for MPP for as a doctor a KY Amakon very astute economist African Economic Commission one president for many years. Others working one wood the Jumea. It will be an impermanent being full and be so far. What one nimzi what do man Ghana. Intino say the may a yen shino obey ya the mean Kofuina when I get forward the Babano, honorable Buama, Oman way to point for me, I believe that even though may begrudge those who think that the main issue may be a waste of time, I'm strongly of the opinion that Obobwama and Shishaya ye wo man no ehia nyina ye kan na adwene bom na ye di ho nkoma Obobwa man can call in the long run.
But Prof. Obisu Bakara, this is not the first time such dialogue or kodo. Say you can imagine about 10 years ago or some few years back, we've had similar dialogue. I mean, what did we achieve as a nation after that?
Yes, that is what we call the Senche consensus accord. And actually, the main dialogue no boy in the sense that around that time, na ahunchira about manimo, no man per day work or IMF. This time it's IMF one policy no. On your one na wobe shen de mamo na wada besha wokon those man kano IMF unity IMF conditionalities. And then no IMF no wasi sa one gasa conditionalities no ma amamba na bohunde chira ma we wonde okay. Wo ho achiro. Abadi na epede ye na ye de bobwa. Wan kasa shishe wonde ma ye fogun kratedo na for brehen. Na yendi hu nkomo nti ahwe ya me 2015 IMF bailout now amanga na interest question na or the result of senchi conversation nkomo ye kodin oman kodin wo senchi one na oboe ma oman no je amanfo hona adwen okay IMF ye bekodem ye dem obobo ahen ye dem obobo ahen ye fremo ye de yi kan ho ye on na omani tintin go kratado the then finance minister or the soma or the what could IMF for what the din command IMF g to okay e won na waka won na wa sentino so what's there what ye damage me no bobo hona no nya se boboa ye baba na ya so once one asen na ya hwema dame jumedi according to no that conversation helped a lot of boy yema IMF program na Ghana di yensa koshase no oboa madame program no called intershare president Akufo-Addo be take over no one bread so much with that program one bread because na in Ghana for ankasa ya ji atum and the same way na me the mean komoyo olokodi obobua ma ehane economy na ahunchira be na oma yesan so ye de yintra ko IMF asibiem no obobua ma ye di nkoma na okay this is IMF obey den yes IMF abad no de ye ma yensan so ye mfa ye ko IMF asibiem me gide de me nkomozi bokodo yensi dia de bia no ho chire no abad na yebotuma ya masidi no ho botton kakra mejide de mi komozi be kodo ye wia nkomozi ni siwia na mpefo tinase na wotua traje ni wia na ye hu do okay be me ekwane ye namde ekwane ye nti ye nkodo ne ye namdo ekwane kurede ye fado no wambo ahenti no ma me enfado bim anade ye be fado krampa yen tu anamono nkakran na sebe yen konkon patrol na yen tofo intimisi da min komoy koda oboboa pie ma yen sikasem going forward no yen ngasa ye jitum na sen komoy ye bedi ne ye de be ye djuma koten dia meji dize oboboa o man Ghana wo sikasem.
And Prof, do you believe with this 2 days dialogue can prefer all the solutions that we need?
Of course, yes. Meaning whether beyond these 2 days conversation, the planning committee, may go around like the education, National Education Forum committee is doing, and meaning how they will also go by one education National Education Forum. after the 2 days meeting no zonal meeting regions, work regions to take ideas, meaning the strategy of the national economic dialogue. Say, we'll buy the same thing there that may help. One year the same thing. I believe that even beyond these 2 days should be enough. As we speak, they should be in various thematic sessions, brainstorming over ideas, discussing what can be done. Because really, share the solutions to Ghanaian problem. All of them, they are in the literature, they are in the academic, they are in the business boardrooms. Echo Makola solutions no hono, echo Temaporta solutions no ho, echo a land borders. The solutions are there. Bringing these ideas together in 2 days shouldn't be a big problem. Solutions to our problem. Like I said, in the literature, in the boardrooms, in the academic lecture rooms, name them. The solutions are there. It's just about agreeing to bring them together and then implementing them to the latter. On and on here.
But Prof, indeed, as a nation, we are lacking something. Always yani economy no bakado jina nenan krodo and government bi obaba and every administration bi obaba no they seek to prefer some better solutions to handle or better solutions to put the economy on its toes.
Well, as for lacking whatever it is, me imagine where you have a situation of like that, what has become like a cliche, and how to use mantra, we have the men, we have the men. And to the moment you put in at the back of your mind that we have the men, what pattern in there? Any man or woman outside whole circle of men and women, say the nyanse the element won't trim. Nyanse no wo awo na wo so-called men and women couldn't want trim. And that has been our big bane in this country. Abana ko. It is about time we tap into the collective wisdom of all Ghanaians, and I believe that is why the main national economic dialogue. Oh yeah, for me, I'm so much happy about tapping into the collective wisdom of all Ghanaians who are willing and ready to contribute. So you tell me them. That's it. Here na the ageno core the tide that may a poet. I mean, your National Development Planning Commission. Nipa P Akado Ghana a national development plan. But unfortunately, Abanbiaba National Development Planning Commission, or Shanada wanting to me in crater it's important a Jumedia Oboboa Magana or mine can call yetumi yezido NDPC wobesise Jumedi wobeton cratedo your mampanyino be launch my launch 20-year development plan, my launch 40-year development plan, my launch 50-year development plan. Aban foforo bape the me 40-year development plan no na attraction. Now what sounds so wakosha ejumaden fofo. Me did it the time has come where there probably constitutional review process here could be the best opportunity. And the work of the National Development Planning Commission, our constitution, yebe shemokina, yebe yenede this time no onya enshrine or ye entrenched National Planning Development Commission. What is Jumedi Viala? Answer no man paying bia pedo foforo bano pedo to national obotumna or wait to the man no or there obisa Ghana fu ina there. The man menya and mama menya. In other words, there should be like a referendum. Because you to me the man. Then it will help for us to have a very nationalistic development plan. That is the only challenge honestly, because the made dialogue in Huhiana. So yeah, the National Development Planning Commission. one dwumadi a wodi afibia fiti Rollins Abredo atamel se share hon president Kofo ma hon so wodi dwuma atamel se ye Mahama Bay or ye Akufado Bay was do wo to chine won so one day may name what is going to happen with the Akufado no. If we have one common development agenda, every party will be made to contribute something to in the form of this national economic dialogue here. Before the 2 years, the Obobuama, Aban Fufubi Obobiano, and Namona previous Abano way to offer no Yanin Puntu, which a Yan any Kankono, the Yensika Semino. So the Nesabeka Krumpa on Yanikasibia, Obama Ampa, the Midjumedino, Woli Dino. I'm assuming you can't hold a year you didn't know on Baba Tunchen. That for me is what we are lacking. You took na in terms of Yan Dachin, Yanni Kanko, Yanni Puntu, Yan Sikasama. The feel there, Obobwama, Yan Dachino, why here, man.
So, in a way, no, we should have a real look at our national policies.
Exactly, especially National Development Planning Commission. The role of the NDPC in our development agenda should be relooked. Now, even in terms of one composition, but I believe the National Constitutional Review team, Professor Prempe Dan and Wodi Jumano, I will wish that the composition of the National Development Planning Commission should be made political party representatives should be on it. Into my opinion, or other parties are registered parties, or even those with representation in parliament. And yes, all registered parties are. Parties with representation in parliament, and then the other minority parties without representation in parliament can come together and select maybe one or two members. Until NDC were rep wodo, NPP were rep wodo, the other smaller parties, including the independent groupings, once will be a one or two reps were there. Jumedia obedi the Robondo, Jumedia offer or man, maybe that for me may help than the current situation now. NDPC will be Juma, will be Tim Crater, Abanfo Froba. Jumedia would be now watching no so wash out and the monarch to be more so one not banning through that for Babano that the ones were no so are born get away. Now I mean this constant work with NDPC, and I think time outside there you put a stop to it. Now you more a very national partisan in the sense of political party representation. I believe maybe in some way no Bobuama when Jumedino wa konkan wa bo manu na.
All right. Prof Mimde nyame adomoch na ye go into specific areas na yezemo nkomoye. But a major amako what are some of the key solutions should Ghana prioritize, or what should be the clear position on how to deal with our economy?
Well, I believe that Asian economy now one major thing in Adebiola or how expenditure pattern. We sika oba yensem nusa. Sebi sika ye didn't so soon. Until the time has come for the government to cut its coat according to the size of the cloth. The size of government, especially the executive arm of government that controls the public purse. The kind of sika offer hormone at times I know I am shishi. Atufos in one speech, made a point that in the coming days, I believe in the budget, is going to announce a drastic cut in the money sent to the presidency. So the me adeno badoni wodo sikoko mampenyi na so honomeno abano we to na we twa be 30% to 40% through that. Now the misika no ye channeling into a productive sector of the economy. Obaboa. Another way so the procurement it's a very big burden on the economy. Procurement. Idea ye bought on one city no procurement bema ya ton 100 cities. And especially when it comes to the idea of sole sourcing contract. Until me feel that I mean commodity na bema ye wondo and you maybe want my year ombwa and finance minister wa my year until there. In Koma ye be in the no. Next week on the 11th budget back in Kano. No more and the panel be find their way into the budget. And I will be very, very happy if we're able to achieve that. And because really, in terms of procurement, especially sole sourcing, in terms of expenditure parting of the executive, so you two mina yetitle da obobua pima Ghana yenwa because really so much money gets wasted on the executive, get wasted through procurement. So much money get wasted through issues like tax exemption. Another area, how can we give millions of dollars in tax exemptions? Then we'll go to the IMF and borrow or go to bilateral countries or USAID. The last time was Trump tried USAID. Because we are losing $150 million a year from USAID. And so we are giving tax exemption of about $400 million to companies. Just imagine if we even reduce this tax exemption by 60%. How much are we going to save? Over 200 million cedis, dollars. That is what we are giving for free. At times, in the AB, tax amnesties are by companies, tax exemptions. Really, I believe Indian or Chinan Comodia National Economic Dialogue Holiday, they will come up with suggestions about the main demand. Now you save Sika. If we're able to save $250 million from tax exemptions, we're able to save about 500 million Ghana cedis or if not more from expenditure cuts to the executive. You're about to channel the Mississippi now to the productive sectors of the economy. Now, Abuama, Jumaba, and Babuni, Juma, into your tax. Companies will go to your tax. Now, money in Sika, now you tumna, and then you hear Kania, you hear in Su, you hear schools. You can say 21st century. You will talk about schools on that tree. That is shameful. And I believe you to me the mean common. Now you chucha and maybe the Obama or money in Sikama. Yashema the me baby. We are just talking about tidal waves or water region. The whole community has been wiped away.
Yes.
We will need money to go and deal with it. You two now you didn't come on how are you be safe Sika or Bobuama in Sikama the me in them yedasano.
All right. Prophet, yes, sir, will be brave into and the young for but we believe that Yame Adomochina will have you and then we go into specifics. Now is more inconvenience. We are busy, that's for your time and yen ashe view on the National Economic Dialogue or Kodo. All right. Ebusia Yanye Professor Vincent Asanfo from University of Cape Coast or Department of another Associate Professor of Religion and Politics. Associate Professor of Religion and Politics. And a unique in common or no. Yoel. Yeah, Prof. Yenzin common. You were on your way going in a profitable room. So your room na yenzin komo enko. The big question may be, so what is the need actually for this economic dialogue? And then whereas we had several of them before, now 2025 we are still talking about the same issue and we are having conferences or dialogue on it. We haven't preferred solution to our issues yet, and rather we are lazy in doing that.
Come na me that say, but I'm prof na about them, because he raised very, very important issues. And I think that one in a few solutions. I mean, he's talked about expenditure cuts, which of course is clear that Ghana or there, and I think that His Excellency the President and Administration were aware. So that is why they have reduced the number of ministries and doing cuts in the presidency and all of that. So expenditure cut is important. And then you talk about procurement issues. Come now, I tell you, there are a lot of abanijima bebrea. So and a lot of companies are where them as maybe a bookshop or something. Say a $1,000. You know, one can say be so there. A VAT na there MP. You know, receipts na there MP. You know, and so we should look at that. And usually there are a lot of areas we are doing sole sourcing and all of that. You know, why can't we do competitive bidding in all of the things procurement are here? That's another. And you also talked about tax exemptions, which I was discussing with Brother Osman. The sort of
the chunk of money oil tax exemptions. Then we are running after entities for money.
But Amna, you know, the beautiful thing about every governance system is that whichever governance system you choose to be as a country, the most important indicator for development or growth is the economy. So having economics conversation is very, very important. But then go into a few of the specifics. First of all, Ghana, we have particular challenges that we have had over time, and these particular challenges, it has confronted every government. But what we have not had is a consistent planner. Yes, be with those challenges. So I tell you, for instance, just recently, if you look at SIGA Reporter or Zaba, almost all of the state-owned enterprises, all of them declared losses. All of them.
And Finance Minister, they are on red flag also.
All of them declared losses. But compare the monthly salary of a CEO of a state-owned agency to that of even a minister and deputy minister. CEO not just a minister or a deputy minister, but they are declaring losses. So in Komaye Bezina will come back to one thing. It is economic diversification. Economic diversification, what we mean is that solve all the loopholes, corruption and all of that. Now you reduce expenditure or increasing our revenue. What we have to do is that the economy or they boom. Because why there is too much. Economy, how do we do that? That is when we begin to talk about issues of creating an enabling business environment. Now, in creating an enabling business environment, one of the most important things is that today, if you look around us, the whole Africa, you will find that most countries, you do not need a minimum capital to enter or invest into the country. But for us, for foreign investment or foreign direct investment, you need a certain minimum capital. So it means that if somebody who is an outsider or a foreign company operate over Ghana, because they don't have that amount of money, and I stand for correction, but I think it's around $1 million or so. Because they don't have that amount of money, they may come in to expand the economy, but won't to Mumba. So I think that one of the things we should do on a day, the minimum capital requirement, for foreign investment, so that even if the company is small, is big, they will employ some people. That will expand the economy. 2, the issue of tax exemptions, we should begin to look at it. If it is possible, what I propose is that we cannot cancel tax exemptions because there are certain sectors of the economy. Ghanaians, for instance, fintech, so you need investment from outside to come. Definitely, you have to give them, tax exemption. So we should look at certain areas we are lacking expertise in, or we don't have enough expertise in. Now, you talk about tax exemptions for them. But if it is a foreign bank that is coming out, we don't need to give them a tax exemption. If it is, for instance, in an agricultural company that deals in agriculture equipment and all of that, we don't need to give them tax exemptions. So we should be intentional and deliberate about the sort of subsectors of the economy on tax exemptions. Another thing which is very important we should be doing is that we should look at, for instance, actually there is a certain authority in this country, a friend Tree Crop Development Authority. Now, what that Tree Crop Development Authority yes set up in there, nyama the cashew, coffee, oil palm, coconut, mango, and rubber, they should focus on developing things around these, crops. For instance, if a cashew, just as we have a certain dependence on cocoa, why don't we move a little bit away from our over dependence on cocoa and go into or look at the production of cashew in large quantities? Allow the cashew industry for the foreigners rather to determine price in the cashew industry. Why can't we begin to increase production in the cashew industry so that government will come in and say that we have a Ghana Cocoa Board, we are now trying to set up a Ghana Gold Board. Can we have something around cashew too? Because it's a cash crop. A lot of people want cashew outside of country Ghana, which can give us a lot of revenue. Oil palm no has some zienka, because we have allowed oil palm in this country production in large quantities to foreigners, and they are doing it in this country. Meanwhile, if we support young people who are ready to go into agriculture and to do oil palm, the country is going to get a lot of money. When we make that money, say me a Ghana, now me hear them business now. What will happen is that, like MTN declared their profit some time back, not too long ago, majority of that money is taken to South Africa. So, again, paint the picture in the third quarter. Say, actually, the growth underpinnings or industries or a lot of growth, you find that the communications subsector grew by about 15% or so. Now, the communication subsector itself, even though it grew about 15%, but it makes just about 3 or a little over 2% of the total GDP. So a 3% industry grows by 15%. This is a book na it will grow by 15%, but in rate terms, it is something very small. Compare that to the mining industry. That controls about 12% of our GDP. If that grows by just about 3%, it is more than a subsector or
by 15%.
More than 15%. So, what the politicians will do and what they usually do is that they throw the figures around. Oh, this sector grew by this percent, this sector. But there are real sectors that affect our lives, gives us more money, which may be growing by a very small margin. And there are other sectors that are growing by huge margins. They give us very small. So what I'm proposing is that let us begin to look at those sectors that they give us a lot more money and then use them to drive development. But if you are an African economy with a lot of arable land, and then it is services sector, it is industry sector, before the agriculture sector, that is driving your growth, definitely you got a challenge. So for me, let's begin to look at solutions. What are the solutions we can look at? If I had my own way, there are certain politics in this country like, for instance, and I know people will not be happy with me, like, for instance, free senior high school on the whole scale. Left for me. But I'm not speaking for John Mahama and the NDC. Because I'm messy. So, come on, in a wholesale free senior high school, we should cancel it.
Free the a burden on the nation.
Not a burden per se, because we can find money to find free senior high school if you want to. But this is the thing. Now, if you go to a lot of young senior high schools now, what do we produce most? Your general science, your business, your general art, your agric student, your visual art student, right? Now, put or do a summation aggregation of general art student, not business student. You find that in most cases, there are more than the general science student and the visual art student, and even the agric student. But what are our real-time needs? You need only there. We are an agrarian economy, so we need more people to go into agriculture. We need more people to be engineers to innovate and create and build. But we are rather creating or churning out a lot more business people, a lot more general art people. Into Ebenya, a lot of journalists in the system. The greater respect to my colleagues, But really, if you put a journalist here, how much employment can the journalists create to drive the general development of the economy? Very little. If you put, for instance, an accountant here, how much employment can an accountant create to drive the development of our economy? But this is an economy, we are building it, so we need people who build the economy in large quantities. We need a lot more engineers. Are we getting a lot more engineers? No, we are not getting a lot more engineers. So for me, we are putting money into an area. We are churning out a lot of people which will rather become what? A challenge. In the urban, we will come out and we will feed the services sector. So definitely still, it is the services sector now, but drive the growth in your economy. And their real impact on the economy is small. That is why our GDP will grow by 6%, it will grow by 2%, it will grow by 3%, and you won't find a 10, a 15, a 25, or that, Again, Mambu Bodu lightly name call.
Masana about the bill because yen
okay.
Yes, in common. But my Ben Akaba.
Yeah, in here.
You the Bibia Boko.
Razinadum.
Sisia, Obi okay, my pen may use it. But Masana about the bill now is in common. Osman. So Joel, Wama Yehu, a bit of the production policy, another production driven economy. If you to me at least we will have a change in our economy. But then this dialogue, what does this mean for our macroeconomic stability?
Medazina Obrofunu. I know me agree. I don't know. I can point to me now. We are thinking about the macro, but then that is what it's supposed to be. Yes, because politics, anytime we like to bundle out figures, in the end, fixation is on inflation, interest rates, and the others, and that is the most important and determine how the economy itself will grow, and then by and large, it would affect the ordinary Ghanaian now at the micro level, or no. Interestingly, I think Yambo Prof now about and I was member about the power. You see, to be very honest and sincere, I have this feeling, and I will no me feel that the economic forum is something that is just more or less like a waste of time. And then the challenges, the problems are you're facing. I mean, you don't even need a PhD economic student to catch out the problem of our nation. It's not your workers and also production. The moment you produce, it means you are trying to galvanize your whole economy. It creates a lot. Inti Mosha Habenumuna Ori Jumano at the primary level, minus for Nazin, extraction levels in one worry Jumano. Then you are going to expect that it is going to be a stimulus and other catalyst at the other areas of the economy. Obiare Benin. By any years in your them. I tell you when I want to work from home, I want to say, Yaman Regiment Point lucrative. And so we talk about our Greek. You talk about our Greek and non crop talk. So I know recently, I ever cut a galam say, well, Monumudra. Obiare going to the mining sector. I said I won't put name for serious them. It's in the last week or so, no years in common with Yahadi. Ghana Statistical Service, one is have your back out, which me there. Almost about 80% of Ghana full. And now will contribute towards the GDP. However, one contribution is less than 30%. So that should tell you how our economy in Kasano, yes, we know this basic thing, but it still looks as if there, Abenibiaba, on your willing there. Over focus and attention on the basic problem now we need to solve. It's the question I keep on asking myself. And Prof. Kase, I'm noticing you maybe I need to discuss that answer and I will look at how I ever connect to the macro.
Yes.
Yes. Kwamina, it's about an attitude. Attitude more connected to discipline. Abenibiaba, including yen Ghana for yana etna de nina. Meaning why we have that much taste for foreign goods. Fiamwa is ukrum hadi. And then yen sugar in ampo say a kind of yezeba. Yen tara yeshe. Yen electronic appliance are you using in yana. Virtually, bibia use ukrum hadi biano. Ye important is ukrum hadi. Into carbon na it is just basic economics. Wo import no you export no. I find the difference now. So we import no switching, we export now. Definitely you have yourself in crisis. And once you find yourself in crisis, it is definitely going to also affect what currency are. Ezizugwa. Into any time you will see the now ones no over form. Into abas na yeba ya so mana, yeba make sure there. Yeba zi nyama ye will chrome hadi, yeba consume nyama ye will chrome hadi. Me that's my first question. Into abanibia ba another president people back there. We should wear made in Ghana. Or do baby African printing pono. Na yes on Fridays, but in the Yakopon in Chadom. Reverend, Mesma, why do you know one African printing? It's imagine us and can consume your local printer. What do you think will happen? From young print, young question is banana is ukrum hadi. In the performing taste, it will be up per fried rice, will be up in your maybe. Meanwhile, so can you in this banana nutritious no? Now, some we are making a conscious effort today. We are going to promote local food, you know. Into that many, and our menu kofi aqua, and you discussing local cuisines, you know. Makes my number foreign countries, but Nigeria fumpo. She do and when you are G and watching the young fufu on ye and I'm pacing and no counters, you know. But Yana Casa, you had in your pen noodles. It's always the noodles, you know. Obinia economy in a boodoo. And can noodles ye pebu come hadia. Can I say what to me I be wahadi? But yem pet. Your problem is now why you're near Quackofairs Abba. So these things are basic. Into the Bamaka, I begrudge His Excellency Nanado Danko Kufuado, the government because Obi Baba sugar factory, granted the 1 year, granted that there were problems. 8 years was good enough time we could have solved that problem. But a young Shaha Modu baby impono, yes, a part of ban importation of sugar. However, as a part of import to be bar, communication of quite license. How do you solve that problem? Meanwhile, so in a year, you are spending closer to $300 million as a sugar bar. Meanwhile, it's a factory now. The factory is directly generating about 7,500 employment. And some indirect is about Kahumbu. If you are in a many outgrowth in his income, and our catch one number is about 15,000. But they were projecting there. So as you know, was started a factory operation and I say they are going to depend on local industry and the local farming inputter. Then it means it almost about 10,000 no, and I was a back home. But what did we do? We don't care. You show in poultry industry. You good not all. And then now go force yana yeri. Into coming or cobana yan balances no. We can never have it. At least I can call you equilibrium pa. Ebi oba baby your advantage na. Yen you produce me yen yibi na. Na ya akra na ezaba. Inti nka electronically na azini nyina no. At least able to me outside so there. You have a sufficiency in producing those ones no. But we don't see it that way. Inti make the omani be what we ask him ade bia no. Obi anyo your self sufficient. Because our one no ibi nyibi. So definitely you are supposed to there eba kra na ezaba but ntina brofi wo pay yen cocoa. So won de cocoa ni bi. So why can't we leverage on what we have no? You see, politics, the second thing I want to talk about. This economic dialogue thing that here is a home common. Now, come to an imagine in the and was more reverend what can we be and casting Kobe a few. And can your consensus ever cut the oil gun if you have whether we like it or not. Yen country now acquire NPP, NDC, even the other political parties are there. But me to have a next one NDC in winner, NDC will win. Maybe you know to know what to say in the future. Yes. But then say area as no. Not say NDC bohun there. Yen animal can be. Let's invite them. No one back here. Come and say any resolution be na or your consensus. Or jitum musumi as in the because you wonder or yet nationalistic view. But in that when you can say last week in the parliament, when you there be na so shut down is there. There was some MPP want to go. Yes, I knew which the one call into a budget na bibido. Now I could assign the Mazi and farmer na yamba. Into a catcher in there. someone a wasa ko na fi adwuma mu na nada abana say one review one employment one status na azo no so abana resign decision they are not going to join the economic dialogue and me that was going to be the case from the onset in one bamba join and to say NPP will come with their best brains in terms of economics Alhaji Biafra for instance we all tag team there up by a level of understanding of the economy even though practically we have our own issues or honum abana be about the same problem the NPP will face the same thing this be face once one happen the same thing obesu honum but in kenya na yere cabo na kids yem partisan interest no partisan politics na twinchen na ya kada yenya na yere baka bom na ya ba find lasting solutions senior can me feel and cover boy yenya but it's just rather unfortunate today some people know what benima you will get NDC boycotting and the same thing is also happening the NDC what many people support their boycotting into whatever resolution I was about so they don't know they may call you no now I quite one-sided it's not profit there and kaya for National Development Commission ejuma ocheda woye na kaya nyina ye ja tum there o ma na ye nyina ye chechero no obiara kan hu bi this is the development plan now yes about for the next 15 years 20 years abene bi aba we are going to work in the same processes with the same ideas no na yakọ into obi mo amaka da ma start agenda 111 menwie ntu no man first can fan 20 no the next person back there anaka so na ye no project one first can to no so ba no ma made it means one ye priority but if there was a certain planner kwame no be ye 20 obi so ba so okay me so me pray no me say ba ye 15 bi ba kan na o chere ye develop ye kwen n'anyim them waste stages no ye ba cut to honom and the point na me you go that years nkomo let's be truthful and honest to ourselves you see aside from the production problems, attitudinal problems, and the political issue that we are talking about, you know, ekwana yes here for that. Sometimes your waste is called then it is crazy. Tanapena me catch out there. But all the baby last year, Parliament is a refresher course or something. The then minorities in there. Emanu me adin sikanyo. Into no yantren chandron kebe panka Parliament chamber wana ampono. Ya botum ya ya ohono. Until we for one gym. And now when you can say the same minority no about a majority. And there's a bonnet scar, you bought me a voter region for 3 days orientation. Me was a cable to me I won't crank. Yet no chroma the last week in was Galamsey conference or whatever. And from Okwaya or Honum.
In Pixie Hotel.
Check what over. What is open to do Honum? Media echo programmer, you are giving money. Yes, no sir. But you one conference, you both be say Kasika, ya spend on conferences one. Na can the miska quite question productive ventures ma. Kebona we are saving money. Until West stage, you know, it's not only about the executive, even though one away spend the money, no. But almost all the sectors in Yinano, it looks as if they business as usual. And see that more commitment there, genuinely ever cut waste, you know, you're in yet. Into another years in common, we were talking about the duplication of some of the portfolios, wasn't on Kofunum. I don't know what more ministry when you so on young powers they create that my desk for ministry woman in Pakun there. Case specifically, this is what you are going to do with ministry one. Now why in Pakun presidential staffer. Yes, even though I agree, it business not doing, but it still doesn't warrant today. So I also have say creating journals or duplicity. I usually talk about it or honor. We'll definitely talk about it or honor. When you that portfolio sitting in is just towards there, we are going to achieve a certain aim in time catch. Just maybe you're about trying to crack not some of the explanations in Abba, but I still feel there. Baby or one man could catch a baby uncle Bebwa. But why there job for the boys and to waste stages, you know, coming out or dorsum. Into by and large, you know,
fiscal indiscipline.
That's one of the I can't be the man or tea. About the budget, you know, grants, no quarter share loans, and international organization, urban budget now was sponsor one. Into a couple of says can be on but no problems in between now. But I still feel there. Another uncle for a cast and be there. Yet it's a cado. Coming up, many are drinking till in there. Yet it's a cado. Because in the young gold reserves are your years to young humpo. So the last time I made sure UK for one gold reserves, I think they have about 3 centers that will keep one gold. One of it holds almost about 37 billion pounds. Uncle if you to gold, I wrote to gold. British want to go to one gold no favor. Unaccounted for gold that yes small Google Chrome had gold that yeah export to Chrome and there yes you export here to Kwabruchi. No be so under the and the receipt was it for black market was it kono ne nyina na ahen na Ghana yenye wo. So these are the challenges we are talking about. Yeah, sure some areas be for instance the me. In the God body me, I'm happy about it. But as to how it is even going to work effectively, no, that's my issue. Koko boda we jumo no chere wozi. Want to koko. Na want to nkwa abrochi. Yan force can fanye. Afi bi aso a corporate syndicated loan. For boto koko no na wonko. Meanwhile, no yet no chroma day na ya ya na yero baka. But still now no, etwa gum. A big challenge. Hwe ECG free. They be ana was technical losses. Na ase ahwemo si watermelon yinfa. A whole warehouse. Na say inferno, say asino. So today no adwene wa rent ase. The moment I was started there, what could then nyama bi kodo ho no onye yi no. Every time they just show no, they come out or kodo ho no. It's the diabolic of the typical Ghanaian no. The politician no. Coming na normal man no yan kasa yan economy na ipode ye no. Onye because economy is all say people seek to benefit from it. Economy in ye people would benefit from it. Into conferences here or you be more business. Dr. Ishmael Yamson, some go school apam. Kwa pama, yan to tuna as a crowd. In fact, they are the greatest African industrialist. You who Ghana had it. And then all about Ghana there you on you want a dado. Yentate penyon future profit in his income. We have the ideas. But when you're the same in coffee, and now was it the ideas what about your economy no? It's a lot about me over now all my touch board analysis. You're na Mr. Adongo mu 1 million analysis on the economy. At to force him 1 million no. We know the basic problem of our economy. It is structural. But how best are we going to do it? Yaba ya abotum na wa governize the economy ni no. Industry si abotum no benyin ye. Na yebo hu da yenyan for sizi wo hono. It all depends on all of us.
Okay.
Until me feel there, let's all be truthful to ourselves. Young committee there. We are going to consume made in Ghana product. Say about committee na say 2 years made in Ghana product. One, it shouldn't be that expensive. And they are Ghana for what quality at into Muntobi. And the African printing say design a big print another so open be not so autonomous on number 1,500 2,000 Ghana cedis. You might able to know you consume. This is a big challenge. But if you want to what about penal, now we just make fall in your coin. Into you make an attempt today. This tax exemption somehow you can pay most of my commission. Foreign companies bar. Now you have to do. Although baby parliament wasn't there. Say one shana say be more one tax exemptions to know. Parliament and grantor mini budget to know one can.
This tax issue Anna the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research was a freeze new tax exemption for foreign companies, reintroduce Rule 2. That is in 2024 budget, and this is the proposal or Kachaban.
Coming up, you see, and I'm Obiana and the partners. There was company Barabano. Why yes, some arrangement to be or sponsor party. Into assurance, you need to make sure that you are going to honor it.
All right.
Somebody is also benefiting directly. This is our country. You see, so to make a day, young the Ghanaian businesses no one.
Okay.
And when you are yenzo no, you guyenzi. Foreign companies no. Na you're born when you are car some many are doing, and I think this is by your human cover boy. I say I'm a tax exemptions now. Young industries and other be companies are. You hear one services will come a day. On young Kofubia keke. Oh, Baba, Obesu Hotel. Next, Mamma, for 200 million, 100 million. But for what reason?
I like you messing up, Odo.
Let's get serious.
We will get serious. That is why the economic forum is here. Ben.
Yeah, I'm here.
But Mr. Moore, I will be.
Yeah,
Brad Patrick, you're here for this. But Ben.
Yes.
I mean, 2025. Send you or economic dialogue a bill. Whether or not, is it important? Is it necessary? And you
well, brother, this woman was a kind of far. And my colleagues are about to one at the studio. I think my brother Yoel and then Alaji, and then also I've been joined with a friend, brother Patrick. Yes, and then yourself. Naminchia Ghana, I take for our take Kastle FM this very afternoon. The National Economic Dialogue. Onye Ada, I think, in my view, any person would totally write off. Yes. It is quite easy to think there you are aware of how. It is easy because once you face challenges and then you are encountering challenges you faced yesterday, the challenges of yesterday are still prevalent today, as long as those of yesterday in solve in way. But there may be differences in the challenges Oman Ghana you encounter today as we encounter, I mean, from what we encountered in the days of Nana Dankwa, Akufo-Addo, and Ado Rawlings. These things come up when there is the necessitation there. Yabasan yashe or manano neho niyehu how no na fi yama proposal towards a kwana yebotum na yasoano. That notwithstanding, or yabeye a norm that politicians in particular would always want a way waba inflate the problem of the nation, just so that wabaka will be there. This is the problem we have come to meet. Inti, if not for them, again, harna, or ibin honitirum, that let us target a national economic dialogue. I'm watching the yakade. Damena or man challenge it. Yawa mena donko nti yentum yanya on Yamaha. If not for that, nobody would rule out what a national economic dialogue can bring to a nation. Say, yes, share, now you say, my brother Yoel, and then, of course, Alhaji Wakinya. The other side of the picture is that Ghana, yimhen how nunsu numu bebre from what we have experienced over the years. Na day in our attempt to solve them, we have not been overly successful. So there must be a concerted plan and a focused vision towards resolving those challenges. Sabosha, you all made an instance to the education system, for instance. I mean, from what I picked from what he said, should be focusing on what Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo introduced as STEM innovation, another friend STEM education, science, technology, engineering, and then mathematics, because these churn out people towards the real sector. And when you are them sector now, they become not only productive, but equal employment creators, so that Ghanaian economy will be strong and highly diversified from that angle. But so knowing this problem and knowing that a previous government has begun that initiative, we may not need an economic dialogue that is also going to expound on what a previous government is doing as a solution to a problem that is already known. What stops a government from saying that ma abandada honorieno? I think it was a solution enough, but ebira or dahuno, we have not seen the result. So let's keep investing in the process so that we'll get a result. Most often than not, abani biara ba opedo start narrowing process. I think that is also the problem. You will. Abani biara pedo start maram process towards the solution. Inti only regard for obini process towards the solution he is expecting. Because when you don't follow obiara back there, this was the roadmap and the blueprint of so and so. Yes.
And so now so be free about that connect.
No, so a backlog of the processor only yield the result because you only have a term mandate, not forever. In your hand, you are not a monarch. But so if we believe in the continuance of governance, then Ghana should have come to a level you leverage on what we have built so far and not a necessitated reset by this. So all that we have begun, I mean, is it that it hasn't yielded result, so it should be pushed out and we should think outside whatever. The other concern, Obama, this whole thing about national dialogue, it is not necessarily, I mean, necessary for now. No, only there. The key stakeholders, especially the policymakers, are almost dichotomized. Into area, there is a clear attention to exempt the other. I think one professor was speaking on the matter there. There should have been a typical political inclusion on this National Economic Dialogue Forum. And I believe so. Because we are, especially when it comes to budgeting to make sure that the findings of this economic dialogue is implemented. No, the political actors when in same. So if the professors, the engineers, the business class have the awesome ideas, but it is left with Parliament to maybe put up some policies, Obama, when ideas and why established that, and Parliament is divided. When can we get what they suggested coming to pass for Ghana's success? So, from the word go, we know that Nkrumah began something like that. In the days of Rawlings, we saw these about, 40-year plan, whatever. Yes. I mean, Mills began something, trying to work on friend and J.J. Rawlings, Nezeno, and then it didn't work because his time was almost elapsed. No other way. Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo wished something like that. In fact, every politician wished there is something like that. But when you have a decided view there, you would sideline a section of the political class. You would always have an issue because wuniano so bobompa there. Demre eyina akwano or chinono so bayeden obeyiwa akwano no odzeneze aba. To me, as a young politician, and in this case, a socialist, I believe that if we are really doing democracy, we should not be shying away from inculcating some people that we know matter, especially when it comes to policy establishment and the making thereof. And Mayebo this economic dialogue, we should be having something different. But unfortunately, as in Washasi, excluding Mayere King, Washasi excluding, Bojo they have already excluded. And I don't know when they will accept the view of my brother Yoel Otiha and other our as a media. Exactly. I don't know when they will accept
maybe there's another trend of this dialogue.
When the formality is already laid.
I think that
Mama Kanata CBA.
Sorry.
Yes, you can come in.
I think that there is an existing
protocol. Yes.
You know, so there's an email account if you have any visa.
So it's all inclusive. It's all inclusive.
Hey, Jesuman.
Yeah.
The other point is that, Obiara, when they want to begin something, especially when they call it a forum, they have their own motive. You know how it goes. For anybody to say that Murto Party will be Mrembezi, they have their motive. Maybe they want to serve chocolate, they are not necessarily waiting on your view, because to them, they have come because they know the problem and they can solve it. That is the issue of Ghana also. Before some of these fora, education forum, economic forum, before they put it out, they only want to let you feel included. Most often, they only want to make you feel included. So the whole report will come and your own view is not there. Moko, a symposia, war Amanchia in the Ashanti region. There is one professor, I tell you, when it comes to indigenous seeds and preserving them for, food security, as far as the African continent is concerned, he's superb. But on any time there is an agric forum of any sort, his views are deliberately squashed. Because these policymakers have associations with foreign companies that will produce the GMOs, genetically modified products, or Iguada. They will not allow such a professor to dictate for Ghana. But anytime that he is invited, he is allowed to speak. So you can have all the beautiful ideas, they have their own motive. So if Ghana continues on that path, there will be a time you and I will say that the economic forum, the education forum, whatever forum has not benefited the country. But Sanchanya Damaja, anytime we hear of these things, Ghana should be celebrating, because we should be thinking there, in the end of it, there should be positivity or a result of achieving a solution to our many problems as a country.
All right. But my men that say, Ebusa for one so one message for bra. In fact, here is in Como. Here is in Como 0244743143. Yani text message, another WhatsApp message for bra. Na is in Como. Hey Patrick, Yabua Hayford. Amo akwa baby.
Angama.
Bibi aboko.
Yaminadum.
Yada yamiase. Yada yamiase.
Mfawa kwenye chia. My brother Joel. Third time meeting him. Such a great media person. Now, as usual, my brother also. Now also. Now we take for so we take especially the Guaman na hen NDC Cape Coast South. Kanka hen MP na ne office staff Obu Ijumatsobwa. I think that I'm liking the conversation around this table for one reason. That's how I always see that when elections are over, we need to think of how to govern a country as Ghanaians, rather than the thinking that Mobon Pede will be failed so that I'm in my back. And just to let this thing pass, I was having a conversation with one white friend. No record there. Young problem as Africans, and generalizing young problem as Africans in the day. We always wish that somebody will fail so that I take it from the scratch and move. And that has been cyclical. In time I'm robon pair there, obi robon pair them in fail. Mumbre zero. Now you taking from the zero. Obo do tenor. Most of robon pair the own fail umbre zero. Namusumin take, so that has been a challenge the babyara. But for them, no, they think of, okay, you do 90 and I do 80. I can go to 90 into 1 2 abama. Obisoroba also okay, you do 90, I can go to 100. So they always build on the Obi Aye, and that is what all one papa. So
but yeah, no be building pie. We try today. You better discredit.
That is a
point.
We will get there, but let me also state on record there. This dialogue and what to suffer every stakeholder, including MPP. So Ben, your political party was invited. Just that one an invitation with a clause there. Was a abanary ye ngofezi. So until they oba restore appointment, they will not be part of it. I think that was very, very unfortunate. Before there, to be a woman just as MPP Funa Nyiman calls for Obiana Adrian. I'm very glad again the kind of conversation you put across. At least for once, we are having a nationalistic conversation. You free the views, otumo matter. But let me state, na binary can issue about economic dialogue or important, but I know now dream afraid that sometimes politicians no ne answer she no kotokum the dada. Inti ero kwanu mpo ne betra wadwene dan no kra na wonfa. Ano kauna this time we need to I think at least commend President Mahama for the assurance or men. There every good project biara President Akufo-Addo no dom was starting, he will continue. You see, sometimes the challenge in a year, young politicians, say Joe on a part no what share BBRC. Now, me banana about your da. They will not commend me. The narrative will be that while I'm here, be paper be I'm a year no, never about your do. So there's always a temptation to prove to people there, Muslim will be here, Muslim my. And that has been a challenge. And
you will be the answer,
that is the point. Ekea agenda 111 you were shot. I think President Mahama in one of the campaign looking at the way Aban Roko speed, he doesn't believe that Ubuntu will win. So he even suggested there certain hospitals are some 70% complete. Nka one fan ones and Kasha won't complete, but it never happens. CCI we are met with 2 blows. Those hospitals now when we no other ho. The master agenda 111 year no no so other ho. Into the question is your crayana there, yeah, babe. So that has always been challenged with young governance system or had it. sometimes we need to be frank to ourselves. I just hope there, damn forum here, whatever the technocrats were suggesting, President Mahama will have that commitment to implement them. Sometimes challenging here, the politician thinking of the next election. Inti Beneka de yenyim Ghana problems. Yes, it's true yenyim Ghana problems, but yenyim Ghana solutions ni nyina. So sometimes yenyim solutions numpa. Some of the solutions are tied to the next election. More typical example. Yenyim free SHS, some of the challenges associated with it. Funding was a problem. Abana nyimide funding was a problem. That is why actually funding for free SHS in Umpa. Odu baby I was once about get funding just to pay for the recurring expenditure of funding free SHS. But in Kawaseti get fund purposely for infrastructure, not for those recurring expenditure. Inti Mekedo for yata suggested there. Nchenka one hour capacity to pay no won't hear. The question is, Aba no benya kukudru why the mazi in an election year? Because he's thinking of the next election. Ma maybe o tifi obotu we tio. Sa abani nya kaka there. CCR no. One hour one was in won't hear. I'm sure the buyer campaign against you. There, you bineze amusumi ya gani. So sometimes the boldness to implement some of these challenges, neither politicians know when you move, but because they have the next election in mind in NT. Now why we do kakra? So mayeri yeni and I'm just hoping that 1 hour when you say when you me de baby a one on ye baby papa. No but prescribed solutions, amen. I bet how hard it is, you know. You able to me walk the talk. Because frankly speaking, Shama US warrior. Now grants for African countries are dwindling. Inti yara no ide ye tumi ye hye yensa pomunsu na ye hwekwa na ye be free da mete bia na ye womun. Inti se awo ankwa amana afan na merbeda Joel we ye technocrat wo kire ho adwen da mu kwani ne ye ba fa do botum wa abo he na. The politician must listen. Sometimes the challenging is how we communicate to our people. They be ameka de Ghana fo a minim one. A fansua wonso etutio. But as I as in no 20 years again, I don't know my rebellion will be to no church. So imagine there out of this economic forum, there are certain austerity measures that are no take. Government now has that tax there. Obech semizachani mufuni ye. Donam ABC dinintino. Anintino yaya damazin. No opposition no so but say abanasi. They wouldn't make capital out of Azayayan. Yansha Manansen's your year with salary increment. As a government worker, so 200% and Kahuri and Kangam and Kamribi, Mekun Kona Mazerba, because I will benefit. Some of us even had issues with young labor unions. That are nearly 25 or the 9 or about 10. But the question is, what way the situation are you won't the money in painful? At least the reason we're government today. So when you will go beyond certain threshold, the economy will crash. But Yanshe, the typical of the politician. One more 23, na kakaje 10. A band is not sensitive to apply. So the political football will then set in. So in as much as you call for the obiaze nensabo gupondo na waye juman, we also need to advise the politician as well. The worry you made the situation at Yomi, these are the measures able to me take no one in Nara. It is a bunny taker, you don't make political capital out of it. At the end of the day, no, phobia and fanko, baby. To conclude, me on the same salary issue, me just the power there left to Nana Akufo-Addo His Excellency, no, His Excellency Dr. Bawumia. If it had not been an election year, and salary go increasing by 25%. Do you know why? That is when they gave government workers 4% and 7%. Government workers at that time understood them because of the challenges and the woman. But as usual, election and its pressure. Ntabano ye BBR to please in Kofono. Ntis orun to mumpa or ye because they are thinking of the next election. I think that the meaning na no dey na yet ye ho ase. The krone ye chechire no onye amanyo new kronte no cheche. One thing I me with this forum you the NDC has made it clear that Nyanse nyi ba ko futirim. Nti na oyam your the MPP fan mambojo Nyanse nyi ba ko futirim. Whatever happens and whatever be it, at least You when people phone co create BNB or honoma, one so when you zero how to run the economy. You will be brave. In as much as you the MPP as a government was bad, you can't say there are no individuals in the MPP who to prescribe solutions to how we can run this country.
Question: some of these forum, and this dialogue, the question that may be saying there. In fact, we have the best brains. Yeah. Urban economics, we have the best brains. Urban education sector, we have the best brains. I mean, every facet of the economy, there were the best brains. Now, we will gather the best brains. And even around this political table, they believe in them that these guys, these people were specialized. That is why if there are financer, a financial advisor to the president, now all these brains being put together, and at the end of the day, the situation a woman, Ghana, our lives will be better. Not to that level, Krampona. A certain government with those best brains in that capacity, then we are still back again preferring solutions to a certain problem we feel that those best brains could have solved.
The political will to implement recommendation at them best brains, and the second one has to do with politician ordering the next election. You see, Oforiata, in as much as how bad able to be he was a keeper of government purse. Do you think that wasn't for a particular purpose? Until no suggest say there one over 2 weeks and 1 more chiana. He knew that we can sustain the way I fund the free SHS. But look at how Nanin Kofumpo treated. Because the ordinary politician is thinking of the next election. Into any challenging, more thing, that is why I'm American in America there. I'm just hoping and trusting there. Whatever resolution or whatever, President Mahama will have that political will to implement it. Because on you just a walk in the park, that ma Ben reckon. You just gather people, watch out now already now. But remember why you be there, I am getting everybody involved into one brand or one better one agent. I think that it's a clear departure of 4 years in Arano. And looking at how extensive the consultation has been and how the invitation has been, I'm just hoping that whatever solution I will prescribe, they will implement it. Now, you me move phone and now politicians and so and not make political capital because more obviously it will come with some hard hit solution proposals. Obviously, may say na ma me zume obviously it will come with some hard hit proposals. But whether MPP one far in chuchu here and there say you can you see how sometimes politicians here
then NDC subo show the young farm banana so
one kada you can today baby yenyimu but ni ejina fa akor. I'm hoping that this time around young brothers from the other side betting and I see looking at the situation because Ankwamina in the damage and debt I think we are hitting to about 800 billion. I mean, we can't continue like this. At a point in time, debt to GDP was over 100%. For how long are we going to behave like this? God has blessed. God has blessed us with every resource. I mean, a large recovery there. Yet it is true. Looking at the natural resources and go on those share him. So I'm just hoping there this will be a good start for President Mahama. Now we too are setting Yama in good place. Things will work out for us. Now you to me if you woman.
All right. Patrick, you were here for the medal say. Ebusia, what's the for messages in the Fabra? Now in the Incomo and the National Economic Dialogue and a forum. His Excellency the President promises that within 120 days, we make sure that we have the dialogue. The solutions to our economic growth and the economy no to major no income on yearism. Basic economic principles suggest that when a country's export exceeds its import, it fosters growth and vice versa. However, Ghana's recent data contradict this theory. Despite recording trade surpluses, such as $542.1 million US dollars in October 2024. Economic development appears stagnant or even regressive. This raises questions about whether the theory is universally applicable or if the reported figures fail to reflect the broader economic reality. Okay, over the weekend, I see over the weekend, I visited 8 galamsey-prone communities in Upper Dintre East and West, and was deeply troubled by what I witnessed. However, on my return to Cape Coast this morning, I observed 4 pieces of galamsey equipment operating openly beneath the Chufupraso Bridge, engaging in illegal mining activities with apparent impunity. Shockingly, a police checkpoint was located just 10 meters away. The police officer seemed indifferent to the loud noise from the galamsey operation and the dire impact. This blatant disregard for enforcement highlights a systematic failure in addressing illegal mining. Meanwhile, decision makers continue to deliberate solutions in luxurious hotels in Accra, far removed from the reality on the ground. My brother, I agree with you. But Joel, with this, fiscally, we are indisciplined as a nation, and then policy-driven policy about the economy, the deliberate attempt to bring down certain policies to halt the growth of the economy, so by agenda of certain people. What is our problem?
Yeah, Kwamna, thank you once again. For the end problem is, you see, for me, the problem is a lot. So I think that we should begin to profess solutions. I think one of the most important things are OBFI, the National Economic Dialogue Numbaba, is the solutions they will profess. So we know our problem. Our problem is that I've told you we are a group of greedy people, but it's like that all over the world. So if you have systems and structures that will prevent Nkrofo from exhibiting their greed and the corruption thereafter, then you can build a country. But I know for certain that in the conversations about the economy and the development or growth, 2 things are also very important. There is trade, that is very, very important, and there is industry, So in all of this, say what to me if what you ever friend the economic quagmire we will need a certain approach to trade and a certain approach to our industry. And if I talk about trader, what I mean is that for a very long time, we have decided to harmonize the economies of Africa. What we have in Europe. But that has been a bit of a challenge. We are making a headway now. We are launched the AFCTA, and we must take advantage of the AFCTA because that will go a long way to help us solve the problem in terms of the fiscal space. Come now. In this country, I've had a time your policy rate to be around 15% before. Now, if you say policy rate, what do you mean? Say a bank, or a bigger bank, or the Bank of Ghana, how much should they get it at? If policy rate is low, it will mean that say also honorable. So Boka Bobusa knows that bear a Jumema, honestly benya something that is lower. So that Obetum will employ more people, are expanding the business, the economy generally. It comes back, rippling effect to expand. Now, as we speak, the policy rate, I stand for correction, I think it's about 27%. 27%, if we look at our inflation target in a year, 8% plus or minus 2%. and combine that. But that's not what we are doing. That is what we are targeting. What we are doing now is over 20%. If you combine an inflation rate of 20% with a policy rate of 27%, give or take, you are increasing the cost of production or doing business by about 35%. Now, if I'm a businessman, now the cost of producing in my country grows by about 35%. If I'm competing with somebody in Nigeria, somebody in Mali, somebody in Togo, and all of that, now on it is increasing about 10%. Between I and him, one will be interested in expanding their company, producing more, employing more for the economy to grow. Obviously, 10%, as opposed to about 35%. So I think that, yeah, but the Ministry of Finance for reducing it from 30 to 29 now to 27, no. Like Oliver Twist, they can do better. So that there is a harmonized African economy through AFCTA. It is a produce product be as industry or money ma. Na say more cost of production will form. It means that finally most amboton so obedient or form. Then I can compete with a company and our business or the same product and also offer the other neighboring countries no urban. If we don't look at policy rates, and look at how much a businessman is borrowing, what that will mean is that we cannot compete with our compatriots until all of the time we will do a lot more import. And we have said consistently, if you do a lot more import, you end up getting a balance of trade deficit. Once that happens, you need support. Already, come now. Money, when we draw our budget, already we need grants and loans to support the budget before we can roll it out, So if you have a budget, you need grants and loan all the time. And then your businesses cannot also compete with other neighboring countries. Meanwhile, you have opened your borders for them to come out. You are invariably killing your own businesses. So with the AFCTA and Elabano, which is important to drive growth in the area of industry and trade, indirectly it is also affecting us because in terms of policy, finance, which takes me back to the reason why I think as a people, and I agree with Prof, I think as a people, our focus should be on the Vision 2063 we have, not on this dialogue, that forum, whatever. But another thing I would suggest is that on the National Education Dialogue now, the leader of that, which is Professor Odro, has been appointed as the technical advisor to the Ministry of Education. So I think that after they draft their document, he can be a sort of a check on how that will be implemented. I propose that we also do same with the National Economic Dialogue, so that Dr. Yamson becomes a technical advisor to the Ministry of Finance, so that whatever Obefimbabano, he can help implement that seemingly. But again, let us also begin to look at how we are going to focus on IT and AI. I've always said this, that if you take the fintech space, it is a very young space. We are trying to see how Ghana we can grow that space, but it is largely controlled by